Now look at what they're doing with their own peoples. They're destroying the institution of family, their cultural and historical identity, and various perversions with regard to children up to pedophilia are accepted as the new norm, and priests are forced to recognize and officiate same-sex weddings. People can live however they want, and we in Russia have never intruded into people's private life, and we're not going to do that. But what we want to say is maybe they should take a look in the scripture, into the holy book of any great religion. It says that the family is a union between woman and man, and these holy texts are now being increasingly doubted in the West. The Anglican Church is now considering the idea of a gender-neutral God. What can we say? God forgive them, they don't know what they're doing.
Today, history was made on nearly the one-year anniversary of the Russian launch of their special military operation. Putin gave his annual Federal Assembly speech, okay? And in this speech, he discussed a lot of different things. He discussed the state of the Russian economy. He discussed the state of the Russian special military operation. He thanked as many people as he could who have stood up for Russia and stood up for sovereign nations across the globe and in contributing to this special military operation effort. He discussed the efforts of his own administration over the years to lift Russia, and I would say successfully so, from its knees at a point in which Russia was very weak when he initially entered the office of the presidency. And most notably today, in making this historic speech, he issued three pretty profound statements. He talked about the conditions for widening the operation in Ukraine. The Russian president issued the warning after the West pledged to supply Kiev with more lethal arms. He said the West is using Ukraine as both a battering ram against Russia and as a training ground. One thing must be clear to everyone. The longer the range of Western systems that arrive in Ukraine, the further we will be forced to push the threat away from our borders. It's obvious. And of course, just after the speech took place, we saw news that more Western nations were considering and supporting the idea of sending longer-range missiles into Ukraine. Putin also came out with statements on the US dollar losing global dominance. This is a no-brainer, of course. He talked about, in addition to the dollar losing global dominance, historic values of American culture losing dominance in the United States itself. And most notably, he talked about Russia suspending the last nuclear treaty with the United States. President Vladimir Putin has announced the country's temporary withdrawal from the New START treaty. So Moscow is suspending its participation, not ending it, but suspending it. Those were the words of Putin. In the last remaining nuclear treaty between Russia and the United States, President Vladimir Putin has announced this during his key address to the Russian parliament on Tuesday, and he noted that Moscow will not exit the New START treaty, but is temporarily withdrawing. Okay, in addition to that, he said that, we're not going to be doing new nuclear testing, but if the United States does, then we will follow in suit. We're going to watch a few of the key clips from his speech today, and we will be breaking them down. These are just a few. I encourage you to watch the full speech as it was incredibly illuminating. Okay, so first and foremost, this is the one that I saw going, on the rounds the most on social media today. Here we have Ian Miles Chong, who shared it on his Twitter account. He said, Putin gave a speech today and dedicated part of it to the culture war, including the destruction of culture, history, churches, and religious institutions, nuclear families, the normalization of pedophilia, and the transing of children. Do you agree with his remarks, is the question. Take a listen.
И здесь опять лгут постоянно.
Actually, we're going to listen to it in English. Let me see which one it is here. Stand by.
What they have at stake is trillions of dollars.
Not that one.
Because this is now about the very existence of our country. But they cannot ignore the fact that Russia cannot be defeated on the battlefield. So they're waging increasingly aggressive information attacks. First of all, targeting the young generations, lying on every step, distorting historical truth, attacking our culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, and other traditional religious institutions in our country. Now look at what they're doing with their own peoples. They're destroying the institution of family, their cultural and historical identity, and various perversions with regard to children up to pedophilia are accepted as the new norm, and priests are forced to recognize and officiate same-sex weddings. People can live however they want, and we in Russia have never intruded into people's private life, and we're not going to do that. But what we want to say is maybe they should take a look in the scripture, into the holy book of any great religion. It says that the family is a union between woman and man. And these holy texts are now being increasingly doubted in the West. The Anglican Church is now considering the idea of a gender-neutral God. What can we say? God forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Millions of people in the West realize that they're being led towards a spiritual catastrophe. People are going mad, and this does not seem to be treatable. But this is their problems, and it is our duty to protect our children, and it's something that we are going to do, to protect them from degradation. It is obvious that the West will be trying to shatter our unity and support traitors who despise their native land and who want to have a profit on their country's troubles. Those who choose the path of traitorship, who carry out terrorist attacks against our country, who undermine the security and unity and integrity of our country, are being supported by the Kiev regime, but we're not going to engage in witch hunts. We're not going to exact revenge on those who took the wrong step, who made the wrong choice. What's most important is that Russian people give a moral assessment to those actions, and we're very proud that our multinational people and the majority of Russian citizens have adopted a principled position with regard to the special military operation.
So, first things first here. I heard people today, I was supposed to be some of you may have seen at 2 p.m. Pacific, I was supposed to be on a Twitter space debate or conversation panel with Mario Nawfal. I don't know how to say his last name, but I think that's close enough. Mario Nawfal. And look, this guy is a big Ukraine supporter. He always has the big Ukraine supporters on his stuff. But, he sometimes has like Kim.com on his Twitter spaces. He's got the biggest Twitter spaces on the platform. And there was like 8,000 people listening today, which, it's like good for him. It's roughly close to what we get here between YouTube and Rumble. So I was like, this is probably a very big audience of people that have never heard the truth about Ukraine or Russia before. So I was very happy to join the conversation. And you know what this fucker did? He's like, oh, join it too. So I was getting my haircut today. I hope it looks nice. And my barber, he always does the shampoo and conditioner. He does it up all like nice and stuff, and then it smells good for the day. And I enjoy a beer with him, and he's like you want it? He's like you want the all that stuff today? And I was like look, I've got something I gotta go to. I've got this Twitter. I didn't say that, but I was like I can't today. And then I skip all that amazing stuff. I still tip him normally. I still because I don't want him. I don't want him to give me a bad cut next time I go in. And then this fucker has the audacity. He sends me the link to join the Twitter space, and he never lets me in. He never lets me in. And you know who he let in instead of me? He let an employee of the World Bank and working for the Ukrainian government speak for almost like 2 hours. He let the Georgian Legion, which are literal terrorists. I don't know why they still have a Twitter account, but they still have a Twitter account. The Georgian Legion, you know, the guys that took Russian POWs and shot them in the knees and watched them bleed out. He allowed the Georgian Legion to enter the space and speak for about 2 hours, but he didn't let me speak. And I was like, you know, it's bad enough that you did that, but the thing that pisses me off the most is that these people are not going to get to hear the truth, okay? And I think that's what he wanted, okay? But, you know, in this Twitter space, he was talking about that part of Putin's speech, Mario was, and he's like, well, you know, he talks like that. He's like, well, you know, Putin is clearly appealing to the MAGA base in the United States. He's trying to appeal to the conservative, you know, traditional base. And I'm like, I can't say what I wanted to do to Mario at that very moment when he said that, because the fact of the matter is, if you know anyone from Russia, you know that that's just normal. That's just how the people are there. It's not like he's trying to appeal to any. He literally says in that at the start of it, he says, you know, they're trying to tear Russia apart by inflicting this ideology on us, and they're targeting the youth with all this stuff. It's not controversial. He's like, they're targeting the youth with pedophilia, and they're targeting the youth with this crazy sexualization transitioning. You know, they're targeting the youth with all this stuff. He's like, they're saying that the God, you know, the Holy Father is going to be gender non-conforming now, the Church of England, you know? And it's like, this is not controversial. And he's like, well, he's clearly doing this to appeal to the MAGA base. It's like, no, if you're a good human, you should just, if you're a good human, you know, you should just innately agree with what Putin said there. It's not like he's appealing to anybody. It's just about appealing to, I guess, rationality, logic, tradition, history, I don't know, good people. And then he wraps up the statement by saying, like, you know, that's the fact that they are spiraling out of control in the West. That's their problem. That's not our problem. That's their problem. But we're going to protect our unity here. So I just couldn't believe that people said that. They're like, oh, he's just trying to appeal to the MAGA. It's like, no, he's just being normal. Okay. Anyway, so I also liked this clip. This clip was from the start. It was the first minute, 1 minute, 34 seconds of Putin's speech. And he discusses the rationale behind the SMO. You know, we've heard him discuss this many times on many occasions, but I do think it's worth sharing this because I just had a big debate with Michael Tracy about such developments and claims that Putin has made. You know, I say that supporting Russia is anti-war, just in the same way that supporting my grandfathers who fought in World War II against Nazis was, you could still be anti-war. Anti-war doesn't equate to pacifism. Anti-war means you oppose war, you want war to come to an end, but you recognize that sometimes things are worth defending. So take a look at this clip right here. I think it's brilliant.
In the meantime, and you are well aware, we did everything we could, absolutely everything we could, to resolve this problem peacefully. We've been involved in negotiations on finding peaceful resolution to this difficult conflict, but behind our backs, they were preparing a different scenario. The promises by the Western leaders, their words about aspirations for peace in the Donbass. As we have seen now, it was all lies. They were just trying to win time. They were turning a blind eye on the political assassinations, on reprisals of the Kyiv regime, on tortures on the believers. They were encouraging more and more the Ukrainian neo-Nazis on terrorist attacks against Donbass. In Western academies and colleges, they were training neo-Nazi battalions, personnel. They were supplying weapons. And I would like to emphasize it, even before the special military operation, the Kyiv was negotiating with the West about air defense, about combat planes and other heavy equipment and vehicles. And we also remember about attempts by the Kyiv regime to acquire nuclear weapons, and they were stating it publicly. The United States and NATO were promptly deploying their troops and army bases, secret biolabs near our borders. They were maneuvering and learning about the future theater of war, and they were preparing, enslaved by them, Ukraine, to the big war. And now they are admitting it publicly, openly. It's as if they are proud of their treacherous behavior. And they
I'm not gonna lie though, it did piss me off. His tie got fucked up, right? Like, it must have been right before he went out. Like, someone should have checked his fucking tie or something.
were calling Normandy format a bluff as performance. And all this time, while Donbass was on fire, while the blood was spilled, while Russia was sincerely, I would like to emphasize this, sincerely was looking for a peaceful resolution, they were playing with the lives of the people. They were cheating in this game of cards. And these disgusting methods was tried out before. They played the same double game before when they destroyed Yugoslavia, Iraq, Libya, Syria. And they will never wash away this shame. The notions of dignity, of honor, is not something they understand. It's not for them. For long years of colonialism, dictate, hegemony, they are used to the notion that they can do anything. They don't care about the world. And in the same manner, like masters, they treat the peoples of their own countries because they have been lying to them as well by the stories they were telling them about how they were looking for peace, how they were sticking to the Security Council resolutions on Donbass. The peoples of the West are now used as a tool of lies. And we firmly stand not only for our own interests, but for our position that is signifying that in the modern world we should not divide the planet into civilized countries, and others.
So I 100% agree with everything that Putin said just there. And I mean, that was the point I was trying to make to Michael Tracy, who I think has been sitting... for so long, Michael Tracy has been sitting on the fence about the war in Ukraine that a single fence post seems to have rammed its way up his ass and lobotomized his brain. Because, he was saying that, well, we shouldn't be supporting Russia, and supporting Russia is not anti-war. It's like, well, what did you want them to do? What did you want them to just roll over and, be like, oh, we're going to turn into Syria now. Roll over and we're going to turn into Libya now. Roll over, we're going to turn into Yugoslavia now. The fuck do you want them to do, Michael? Oh, supporting Russia, you're pro-war, No! You're saying, I want an end to the hostilities. We tried peace. We tried the Minsk Agreement. We tried Minsk II. We tried various peace proposals throughout the war. Hell, Putin at the start of his presidency tried to join Russia into the EU and into NATO. He was denied. They wanted peace. They don't want war. They don't want 15,000 civilians in the Donbass to be slaughtered. They didn't want a coup in 2004 in the Orange Revolution. They don't want a coup in the Maidan Revolution. They don't want any of that. They want peace, Michael. The fuck do you mean? You want them to just roll over and take it up the ass, NATO roll right in and destroy their country? Because that's what they want. You can look back at the CIA leaked cables from WikiLeaks, William Burns saying, we're going to create a civil war on Russia's border, draw them in, and then try to create, the conditions for regime change in Russia. It's failed. It's failed because Russia said, I guess we're going to have to take matters into our own hands. So anyways, this is another great clip from the speech today I want to share with you.
And the opportunity to continue to steal from everyone, hiding behind the words about freedom and democracy by imposing totalitarian values that they call liberal, putting labels on entire countries and peoples by publicly insulting their leaders. They are suppressing freedom of thought in their own countries. They try to distract their own people from the corruption scandals. Because we can all see it on the screens on television, from growing inner, social, international, and other kind of problems. Back in the 1930s, they led the way for Nazis to take power in Germany. And in our time, they started building anti-Russia from Ukraine. It's nothing new. People who know a little bit of history, they are perfectly aware of what's going on. It can be traced back to the 19th century. It was happening in Austria-Hungary, in Poland, and in other countries with the only goal to take away these historic territories that are now called Ukraine from our country. That was their goal. There is nothing new about it. Absolutely nothing. They are just repeating old ways. The West expedited the implementation of this project. They supported the coup in 2014. It was a bloody coup, anti-state coup, anti-constitutional coup, and it's like nothing happened, like it's a normal way of things. They even informed everyone how much money they spent on this.
So, a little bit more there. That was good. Now, this is the part that really blew the minds of liberals all across the world. And honestly, I just find I find the liberal reaction to everything Russia related just like so predictable, but also hilarious. It's like, Ukraine lost its sovereignty in 2014. Since then, it's just been like a Western vassal. It's not a real country at all. It hasn't been since 2014. But I mean, let's just look at the truth here. So, I say it's predictable and funny at the same time because of stuff like this, So Putin announced at the end of his speech that he would be withdrawing, and we're going to watch it in a second because this part is absolutely incredible. He said that Russia is going to be suspending, not ending its participation, but suspending. I think it's an effective end, but we'll see. Suspending its participation in START, the START Treaty. Which, the West will claim that, Putin withdrawing from START is destroying the international security system. Oh my God. But they never will admit that their refusal to implement the Minsk 1 and 2 agreements or the various Russian peace proposals landed us in this very situation. Okay, and they boast about the fact that they did this. They boast about the fact that they nuked those peace deals. They refused to implement Minsk and Minsk 2. And then also you have stuff like this. 2 days ago, Bild, one of the largest news outlets in Germany, said Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. According to this former KGB agent for sure, Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. So they ran with this story. They were the country with the largest nuclear fleet, nuclear arsenal rather, out of any country on the globe. A former KGB agent says Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. So 2 days ago, Bild reported that Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. Now, everybody and their brother in the liberal press, Bild included, is freaking out because Putin withdrew from the START treaty and said that, well, if the United States begins to resume nuclear weapons testing, then Russia will be happy and ready to do the same as well. So, I guess they lied about Putin not having nuclear bombs because now they're quite freaked out that Putin. If Putin doesn't have nuclear bombs, why is he withdrawing from why are you freaking out that he's withdrawing from the START treaty? Take a look. Take a look. History in the making.
We cannot not take it into consideration, especially today. Like the first agreement about strategic offensive weapons was initially signed by the Soviet Union and the United States in a different situation when we were strengthening mutual trust and escalating the situation. In the future, our relations reached such a level where Russia and the United States claimed they don't consider each other a foe, an enemy. Great, that was good. And the current agreement from 2010 contains important aspects about the indivisibility of security, about the direct connection between strategic offensive and defensive weapons. All of this is long forgotten. The United States withdrew from the agreement. It's now a thing of the past. Our relations, which is important, have degraded, have decreased, and it's something of the United States doing. It is them, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, started reconsidering the outcomes of the World War II, building the world American way, where there is only one master, one Lord. And they started flagrantly destroying all the foundations of the world order to cancel out the legacy of Yalta and Potsdam. Step by step, they started changing the world order, dismantling the system of security and arms control. They have planned and implemented a number of wars across the world with the only goal in mind to destroy the international relations architecture that was created after World War II. It's not just a matter of speaking. That's how it's happening in practice. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, they want to become a dominating force forever without taking into consideration the interests of the modern Russia and the interests of other countries for that matter as well. Yes, the situation after 1945 has changed. There are new, quickly growing centers of development and of influence. It is only natural, it's an objective process that cannot be ignored. But what is impossible is that the United States started changing the world order just only to suit themselves, only in their own selfish interests. And now, via NATO representatives, they are sending signals. Basically, they are sending ultimatums that you, Russia, should adhere to everything we have agreed upon, including the START treaty without any misgivings. And we will do whatever we want. There is no link between the issue of the treaty and the conflict in Ukraine or other hostile activities of the West against our country. And there are statements that they want to achieve the strategic defeat of us. So either they are very cynical or they are very stupid, but they are not fools, after all. They want to defeat us, and they want to inspect our military sites. And in this regard, I have to say that Russia is stopping its participation in the treaty about strategic offensive weapons.
Round of applause from the audience there. Round of applause. Big round of applause. And you know, I'll say this. I'll say that it's like, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they? Has the West ever shown an ounce of respect to any treaty, agreement, promise that they've made towards Russia or the former Soviet Union? No. No. So why should Russia continue to presumably cuck itself, you know, if the West isn't adhering to these agreements? They shouldn't. They shouldn't. It would be a cuck bitch move if they didn't. So there you go. You're not dealing with a cuck bitch. You're dealing with Putin. I don't know what you expected.
I will reiterate once again, it does not we do not withdraw from the treaty, but we are putting it on hold. But before we go back to discussing this matter, we need to understand first, what do such countries from North Atlantic alliances, France and the United Kingdom, want, and how can we consider their strategic arsenal, which is offensive part of the offensive potential of the alliance? With their statement, they say that they want to be a part of the process. Thank God, we do not mind it. But don't try to lie to everyone again to show that you want peace, that you want detente. We know that some of the nuclear weapons are almost out of their term, and we are perfectly aware that some of the officials there, they think about testing their nuclear weapons, considering that the United States, they are developing new types of the nuclear armaments. We have such information, and in this situation, the Defense Ministry and Rosatom should also prepare to test Russian nuclear weapons. Of course, we are not going to be the first ones to do this, but if the United States will hold their tests, we will follow the suit. No.
So there you have it. Putin makes history with suspending the final nuclear treaty with the United States. And I will say that, I think that this is extremely based, and I think that it never should have happened. But I mean, given the situation we're in, it's a base move from Putin. So I wish Putin didn't have to do this. I wish Putin didn't have to do the SMO or any of this stuff. But like, let's just be real here. Clearly, the effort and the strategy of establishing good rapport with our Western neighbors and just counting on their sheer goodwill and their word, you know, taking them at their word, that has failed as a strategy. It failed for Syria, it failed for Iraq, it failed for Afghanistan, It failed for China. It failed for Russia. It failed for you name the country, right? Throw a dart at a map and you're going to find a country that it has failed for. Time to take matters into your own hands. Global population leadership, whatever. Time to take matters into your own hands. And Putin is doing it in Russia. And it's very unfortunate because, we have such a deranged, group of leaders in the United States that I fear that this will likely spiral out of control. You have people still today saying like, World War III, I think it's very, very rare that we'll get to World War III. It's like, no, I don't think that's all that rare. I mean, Zelensky came out just this week and said if China officially allies with Russia, then World War III will start. I don't know who's going to break the news to good old Volodymyr Zelensky, but China already is allied with Russia. And their relations are rock solid, as the Chinese Foreign Ministry just said this week. So World War III is afoot. We're currently in the Sitzkrieg, the war before the war, and things will get worse before they get better. That is, if they ever get better again. Because nuclear Armageddon and mutually assured destruction is still on the table. Thanks for watching that episode of The Dive. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, comment below, and be sure to share this video with your friends. Also, my YouTube channel has now been permanently demonetized by YouTube because of the truth that we tell here. For that reason, I'm asking you to join as a supporter on my Locals community, which you can find linked below in the description of this video or in the comment section. When you join as a donor on Locals, you get access to my weekly private live streams, all of my private content, and the opportunity to ask questions to the guests that I bring here on our show, such as Glenn Greenwald, Colonel Douglas McGregor, and Ron Paul. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. I'll see you back here next time.